What's up, everybody? Welcome into DodgerHeads Live, presented by DodgerBlue.com, part of the Medium Large Sports Network. My name is Jeff Spiegel. That is Anthony Witrado. Thank you to everybody who waited patiently for me to agonizingly watch my Oregon Ducks lose in just atrocious, ugly fashion. But we could set that aside here, Anthony. We're here to talk Dodgers baseball, which is a far more compelling and far less disgusting team than the one that I just watched.
I would agree. I took some of that game in because I am a March Madness fan, and also to root in unison with you. And that game was ugly.
Yeah, I was going to say it was compelling because it was close. It was not good. So it could be compelling without good. That's what we had. 12 reviews, 18 fouls, I think, in the last 30 seconds, and the Oregon Ducks lose by 4 after an intentional missed free throw. Yes, I'm out of town, spring break with the little kids, so we're recording from a new location, making it work here. But let's talk some Dodgers baseball, Anthony. We did have a Dodgers game, the first since the Tokyo Series. If people did not catch Game 1 of the Freeway Series, I would not necessarily entirely fault them for that, but the Dodgers did win. The headlines were that Max Muncy hit a home run. The Dodgers won, and top pitching prospect Jackson Ferris, to me, Anthony, was the most interesting. I posted this on social media. I just love moments where a guy like Ferris gets some run, because the Dodgers have done this before. Over the last 3 years, Ryan Pepio has gotten this start, who, by the way, is the opening day starter for the Tampa Bay Rays. Bobby Miller has gotten this start. Gavin Stone has gotten this start. Jackson Ferris, the next in that line, 3 2/3, 2 hits, 1 earned, 4 strikeouts for the young guy, his third appearance of the spring for the Dodgers.
Yeah, he looked good. I didn't see the game, but I was following along on Twitter, and I listened to some of it on the radio during a drive. But yeah, it was nice to see him sort of get a long leash and kind of let him do his thing a little bit. So like you said, this is sometimes a proving ground for some of these younger prospects that we're going to see in 2 or 3 years. So yeah, it was nice to get him out there, get him the ball in a setting different from what the Cactus League typically looks like. And it sounded like he had a pretty decent outing.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm sorry, apologies to Chris Oakey's family. Chris Oakey was 2 for 2 with 2 RBIs tonight. So that was another major storyline. Blake and I had a running joke because there was a moment in a Dave Roberts scrum while we were there when he was talking about all of the catching depth. And it was like, yeah, I mean, it's tough because we've got Will Smith and Hunter Fiducia and Austin Barnes, obviously Chris Oakey. So he became obviously Chris Oakey to us for the rest of that joke. Because obviously Chris Oakey is in the room of catchers for the Dodgers at spring training. But he will be a minor league depth guy for the Dodgers. And look, those are fun things to have, necessary things to have, and good for him. 2 for 2 with a pair of RBIs. Chris Taylor, 1 for 3. With a pair of RBIs. Again, Max Muncy hits the home run. Zaire Hope, 1 for 1 with a walk and 2 runs. Andy Pages, 1 for 3 with a walk and a pair of runs. We're going to talk about a couple of guys like Andy Pages towards the end of this show and what we saw from them in the Tokyo Series and kind of what we're expecting moving forward. But unfortunately, the biggest headline from this game, Anthony, was not actually during the game. It's what happened right before, which was Mookie Betts was scratched from the Dodgers lineup. He was in the lineup, and then just beforehand, he was scratched from it. Bad news on the Mookie Betts front, because this is a guy, Anthony, who has been sick. It appears since 2 days before Tokyo, he has not been able to keep anything down. He said otherwise he feels fine, but he was throwing up before the game, which is why he got scratched. I saw 2 different numbers of how much he weighs. He has lost somewhere between 18 and 25 pounds, depending on which of the numbers, whether he weighs 150 or 157. It's not great for Mookie Betts. And I think the question, Anthony, is, his opening day is probably in jeopardy, right?
I would say it's gone.
Okay.
I think jeopardy is gone after today. If he hasn't been able to keep food down since 2 days before Tokyo, why? How come he's not in a hospital like that?
Well, and he said that he hasn't been able to figure out. He said it's this was from Dodgers Insider on Twitter. He said he described the illness as frustrating. He has not been diagnosed with anything. So they haven't been able to say exactly what it was. Again, he said he feels fine other than this one piece that he can't keep food down.
Yeah, which is a pretty big deal. Like
totally. I mean, because we're going on 2 days before they left for Tokyo. It was like 2 weeks ago.
Right. Yeah. And then not a lot of insight after the game today. I think Dave just said basically he's not playing tomorrow.
Yeah.
And then we'll see is essentially what it sounded like. It's interesting that it's interesting. What's interesting to me is that they had him in the lineup today, late scratch, which means he was feeling okay. But like if he's not keeping food down, like let's say yesterday and the day before that,
Yeah.
he probably should have been playing in the first place.
Right. And that's what I posted on social media. Like the fact that you could take this one of two ways. Option one is, hey, the positive news is up until 30 minutes beforehand, Mookie Betts was trying to play this baseball game and the Dodgers were okay with it. So that to me sounds like positive news because it's like, okay, he must be really close. He throws up, they change their mind. Option two is it must be pretty bad for him to be in the lineup and then out of the lineup all within an hour before the game, right? For them to have cleared him to play, so to speak, because that's the thing. He says it's frustrating, no diagnosis. Like, obviously, the Dodgers are taking care of this. Obviously, he's receiving the highest level of medical care, whether that's IVs, whether that's, every sort of test they could possibly run. But the fact that he was going to play and then they changed their mind, maybe that's worse news than we had a day ago.
Yeah. It's got to be frustrating for him to not know what's wrong with you when that's the situation. It's frustrating for the team, I'm sure, because they just, everyone's sort of throwing their hands up at this point and going, we don't know. But yeah, I would say given where we are at now, I don't think he plays in this opening series. And in all honesty, like maybe just scratch him for the first week of the season.
Yeah.
And say, we got to figure this out. Because even if he starts to hold food down, like let's say like later this week, I mean, how weak is he?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
he looks skinny. He looks skinny.
He does. That picture today that was posted, I think by our Dodger Blue account, he looks sucked up, like in his face. You can kind of see it. So even if he were to start to feel better and start to keep food down, let's say tomorrow, I would think he's at least a week away from being able to play, given how much weight he's lost, given like where's that nutrition coming from? I mean, is it just strictly IVs right now? If what they're saying is true and he literally can't keep food down in his system, that's a scary thing. And two, like how are you going to perform if you don't have the necessary fuel in you to go out there and perform at this level and be a professional athlete? Like it feels like at least the first couple of series are probably gone.
Yeah. The interview he did, by the way, the post-game media scrum is up on the Dodger Blue YouTube page. So if you're on the YouTube page, when we're done, go ahead and check that out. It's 5 minutes long, but he kind of breaks down everything we're talking about. And again, I have hope that the Dodgers have the best doctors. So if this was something that was incredibly serious or that could be diagnosed, it would be diagnosed by now. And the fact, again, I can't stress this enough, that the Dodgers were planning on playing him up until 30 minutes. It wasn't like an idea. Like they literally sent out a lineup that included Mookie Betts' name in it on social media, publicly, everywhere, and then changed their mind. To me, that tells me that he must physically be somewhat okay, or at least not a risk. And maybe it was Mookie saying, hey, I need to get some live ABs. Like if we're going to try and get this thing going on opening day, I haven't been seeing game action in 2 weeks. Plus, we need to be able to move this thing up. Maybe that's what's happening with Mookie Betts, but we'll have to see. I mean, there's all sorts of stuff I think this could be. None of us are doctors. And so I see people on here saying, I know a person that had this, or maybe it's this. Like, we know the things they could test for. If he had the flu, they'd probably have diagnosed it. Like, this doesn't sound like pneumonia. Yeah. This doesn't sound, like we can do some of that stuff. But if the Dodgers and their doctors who are trying to take care of a guy that they're paying hundreds of millions of dollars to haven't been able to diagnose it, I'm not sure you and I are going to tonight. And again, I just keep coming back to Anthony, and you tell me if I'm crazy. He was going to play tonight. I don't think his diagnosis is going to change from, an hour before the game to now, which makes me think, sure, he might miss the next couple games. He might miss the first couple games of the regular season, but I don't know. Am I wrong to be not overly concerned based on the information that we have?
I'm probably more concerned than you are. Okay. It sounds like. I just what I don't understand is if what they're telling us is true and he hasn't been able to keep down solid food, I mean, since before Japan.
Yeah, 2 days before Japan's the
What
report.
was he doing? If that's true, what was he doing in the lineup anyway?
Yeah,
To me, that's weird because if he's not able to keep solid food down, let's say yesterday, he comes in today, he has liquids, whatever, and he's like, "I'm feeling okay. I had a smoothie. It's staying down. We're good." The fact that he hasn't been able to eat solid food for 2
yeah,
weeks or whatever it's been, like, I wouldn't just throw him in the lineup. Now, I will say that, like, he's getting great medical
yeah,
care, I'm sure. So, like, for them to say, like, "Okay, you're good to play," just feels like there's a communication gap in between what we're being told as the public and maybe
sure,
what's really
as usual.
happening,
Yeah,
which shocking, I know,
right,
the
right.
Dodgers and, like, a gap in communication between a player's medical issues and what we're being told, but, um yeah, so, I mean, if that's the case and they felt like he was good enough to play, I guess that is promising, but the fact that they go in and they scratch him and we're being told that he can't eat, um, it just feels like we're a long way off and that he
Yeah.
probably shouldn't have been in the lineup today anyway.
And I think you're asking the right question. Like, if this is all true, then why is he playing? Right. And I see people in the chat, hey, 25 lost pounds is a red flag. Not being able to keep food down for 2.5 weeks is a red flag. Yes, yes, and yes. And the Dodgers recognized all of those red flags and
Right.
are asking the exact same questions we did. And they put him at one point in the lineup today. That's why I think I get to a place where either this is total malpractice by the Dodgers, which I'm not going to say 0% chance likely. We've seen the Dodgers do some things that make us scratch our heads medically, but I'm going to go more unlikely than likely.
Sure.
And so they clearly didn't think this was a risk. Now, that doesn't mean like it's not serious. They could have said, hey, you're not going to get worse by playing in this game. So we'll let you play in it. Doesn't mean it's no big deal. But let me ask you this, Anthony. If we get to opening day and we're still in the same boat, no real diagnosis, hey, we're not overly concerned. It's not like some life threatening illness he has. It's just a parasite or a stomach bug or something that won't go away.
Yeah.
We think he's going to be out for another few days. Do you just throw him on the 10-day and
I
say,
would.
hey, let's just keep the roster spot. We don't really need these games. You know, like we're already 2-0,
Right.
that kind of thing. Is that how you would handle it?
I would, and for more than anything, I think at this point is to save him from himself and to save the Dodgers from the temptation of putting him back in the lineup. Just say, "You know what? He's not available for 10 days."
Yeah. Yeah, and heck, I mean, they got Chris Taylor. Did I mention Chris Taylor had 2 RBIs tonight? He could be starting opening day shortstop, folks. I don't know what the concern is. Let's get to a couple super chats. 300. Hoping it's not Crohn's or a blockage. I'm sure he has the best doctors looking after him. That's exactly it. Like any test that could be done, I'm sure they have done on Mookie Betts. They haven't found anything. Which we've all probably been in situations where no news is in some sense good because anything they could diagnose you with might be really, really bad. On the flip side, you'd like some answers. He clearly doesn't have that. Laura added this. Dave Roberts said he's not concerned long term, but consider the source. Do you think he's optimistic or hopeful, Anthony?
Yeah. Yeah, I think Dave, Dave's outlook is typically optimistic here.
Yeah.
I mean, the fact that he wrote his name in the lineup at all today shows that, he's thinking that this is not a huge concern long term, and maybe not a huge concern like in the immediate future.
Yeah.
I just think that all the flags are there that say like he shouldn't be playing anytime soon, most probably. Which I'm going to games 2 and 3 Friday and Saturday. Like I want to see him, but like
Yeah.
I mean, if he's not healthy, man, like don't suit him up.
Yeah. I hear you. I hear you. Richard says, this is where the Dodgers upset the media and the fan base. Their dishonesty with players is making this worse. Put them on the IL and be done with it. Look, Richard, they have a long history that justifies you saying this. Nobody's going to argue about how the Dodgers have handled injuries. And again, I think there's an argument to be made that their duty is not necessarily to make us happy, but their duty is to there's a lot of stakeholders involved. We are one of the stakeholders. We are not the only one. I'll put it that way. I just don't know. Like, I don't see what's being lied about here in this case, right? Like Mookie is the one who came out, but right. We didn't get a medical update from Dave. We got a medical update directly from Mookie Betts himself saying it's frustrating. I don't know what it is. I've lost this weight. I can't keep food down. So, I think if they felt like it was an IL situation, they would have done it already. And they haven't, which tells me they're optimistic that maybe he's going to be available to play in 4 or 5 days.
Yeah, and I mean, they don't have to until, They don't really need to make that kind of move until Thursday, in my
Sure.
opinion. Um, right now, they're hoping he's going to be ready.
Yeah.
So they don't want to pull that trigger until they have to, I think. But yeah, just it's unfortunate. I wish he knew. It'd be nice if we could know. It just seems like a whole lot of uncertainty right now, and
Yeah.
the fact that it's got to be so frustrating for him, right? Like opening
Yeah.
day is coming. He's already missed, the first two games that actually counted. Um, and he's missing it because he doesn't know why. He doesn't know what's wrong with him aside from the fact that he's losing weight and he can't keep food down. Um, that's got to be awful for him.
Yeah. I see. I was just, it's reminding me of a stupid story, which is, yeah, this is going to be our transition out of this. There was like, they have an anti-nausea medication called Zofran. You ever heard of this, Anthony? You ever taken Zofran?
I have not.
Oh
No.
my gosh. It's like a miracle drug. There was one time I woke up and I had vertigo and the room was just spinning on me. And so I just felt like I was on a merry-go-round 24/7, at which my stomach gets sick on merry-go-round. So it's a bad combination. So I ended up in urgent care and they gave me Zofran, and holy smokes, Anthony, let me tell you, anti-nausea medication. Now, look, okay, I'm sure Mookie Betts has tried Zofran. I'm not suggesting otherwise. I just want to give a shout out to whoever invented Zofran. Okay, Justin Option says Zofran's the best. It literally, like, they gave it. I got it prescribed for something, and I was like, I don't think I need this, like a surgery afterwards. And they're like, just take the prescription because someday you're not going to feel great and you're going to want
Yeah.
an anti-nausea medication, and this is prescribed. So go for it. So shout out to Zofran. Bet you didn't think you were getting that on DodgerHeads tonight. But if we find out, somebody Google the inventor of Zofran, we'll give that person a shout out here on the show tonight. You mentioned you're going to games 2 and 3, Anthony. We found out who you're going to see pitching for the Dodgers today. Blake Snell gets the nod on opening day for the Dodgers. Yoshinobu Yamamoto will get game 2, and then a gentleman by the name of Roki Sasaki will get game 3. I'm going to come back to Snell real quick. You're getting game 2 and 3.
Yeah.
Scale of 1 to 10, how happy are you to hear that it's Yamamoto and Sasaki? Obviously, Glasnow's the other name who many people probably would have guessed would be in the mix. But if you had to rank those 3 guys that you want to see, I imagine Roki is number 1 that you want to see of those 3 because it'll be his major league debut.
Yeah.
Well, not his major league debut, his U.S. debut. Yamamoto, Glasnow, did you have a preference there for the other?
If it's between those two, because we kind of figured Snell was going in the home opener. These are the 2 guys I would have picked. Yeah, I want to see Sasaki for obvious reasons, and Yamamoto is he's emerged as my favorite of the starters right now, and so I'm excited that he's going to get the ball. I think it's cool too that he played such an important role in getting them that World Series. Especially his performance in the World Series against the Yankees, and that's going to be ring ceremony and championship celebration and all that. So it's kind of cool that he's getting the ball in that game. And like I said before, like we've seen him in those sort of spotlight type of games, and he typically he's got a knack for performing when those lights are bright.
Yeah, do you think that's part of it? I mean, obviously Yamamoto was a contributor to the World Series.
Yeah.
Tyler Glasnow sadly was not. So I mean, do you think that's why Yamamoto gets the nod in game 2, or do you think this is just how the Dodgers drew it up?
I think it's how they drew it up, but I think it's how they drew it up looking out with this maybe kind of in mind. Like I don't think for example, I don't think they would have wanted to give Snell the start in this game, or I should say in game 2 of the home opener. For all of these reasons. Like, it's cool to have a guy who, had that kind of performance in the World Series getting the ball when this is the celebration that's happening. So, I think it's probably all a little coordinated. I'm happy that he's getting the ball. I'm happy that Sasaki is going to go. Can't wait to see him at home. Those 2 games should be probably electric, I would think, with those 2 guys pitching.
Yeah, let's break these down. Let's start with Blake Snell. Ironically, game number 1 of the entire major league season. Well, U.S. Dodgers home domestic opener. We all know what I'm saying here. It's hopefully we don't have the person in the chat that's like, actually, Jeff, it's the 3rd game of the season. Okay, somebody will do that just for the trolls, and we appreciate you. Pretty funny that in the domestic home opener, Anthony, we probably get the best pitching matchup we're going to see in all of Major League Baseball in 162 games. Snell and Skubal, like these might be the 2 best pitchers in Major League Baseball when they're fully healthy. Paul Skeens in the mix, of course. But like this might be the best 2 starting pitchers that face each other all season. We're getting it in game 3.
Yeah, very cool. Like you said, there's a legitimate case for when the season ended last year, like the regular season. These were the two best starting pitchers in baseball,
Yeah.
Snell and Scooble. So, yeah, that's a marquee kind of matchup. Very cool. Snell has a chance to endear himself immediately
Yeah.
to the Dodger faithful. That's for sure. Um, I have high expectations for him this year. I do. I think we talked about last time, sort of, award kind of predictions and given the innings that I think he might pitch, I think he ends up being the best case for the Dodgers in terms of a guy who could win the Cy Young Award this year in the National League.
Well, I don't want to overreact to one game, but my Cy Young prediction of Yoshinobu Yamamoto finishing near the top looks pretty good after
You
one
look
full
pretty
game.
good. Yes, you are right.
But yeah, to your point, we get the AL Cy Young Award winner in Tarek Skubal. And how about that? I mean, look, you've probably heard these numbers before. This isn't earth shattering, being able to read a game log and do some math. But Blake Snell missed a month in June last year. When he came back, I believe it was July 6th on 14 starts, 80 innings pitched, 1.23 ERA, a 12.77 Ks per nine. He never allowed more than 3 runs in any start. He allowed 1 or 0 runs in 11 of 14 starts from that point forward. So when we talk about, like, look, Paul Skeens is in the mix, but I don't think it's crazy to say that Snell is also in the mix. We're going to talk about The Athletic did some position player rankings, top tier. There were 6 guys in the top tier. I think Skubal, I think Snell are both guys that are in that top tier. When I'm sure The Athletic has that list coming out at some point. Both those guys belong in the top tier. And again, game number 1, it's going to be electric, Dodger Stadium, the whole deal. I don't necessarily think the Tigers are going to be like a powerhouse necessarily this year, but they've got some young bats. This is going to be a fun opening series.
Yeah, definitely. And I would imagine maybe in game 2, Flaherty. I don't know if the Tigers have announced all of that stuff yet, aside from Skubal, but it would be sort of a cool thing that Flaherty went in that game also and got his ring then too.
Yeah, I totally agree. Totally agree. Let's go to the next 2. Yoshinobu Yamamoto, 5 innings, 3 hits, 1 earned, 1 walk, 4 strikeouts over in Tokyo. I kind of wanted to identify a key for both Yamamoto and Roki Sasaki. And one thing I'm keeping an eye on. The key to me with Yamamoto is actually has nothing to do with the box score and nothing to do with like the actual outcome. I'm really intrigued to see what his velocity is. When he threw in Tokyo, his fastball velocity was plus 1.3 miles an hour from where it was a year ago. And that might seem insignificant when we're talking about like a 96 to a 97 mile an hour fastball or something, a splitter that had 4 extra inches of movement horizontally. But if those type of things remain consistent, then the fastball that's maybe average kind of tilts towards above average, or above average fastball tilts towards, way above average, whatever the next category up is. And so obviously I care about how he performs, but if that fastball velocity, Anthony, maintains where it was in Tokyo, he could be something real special this year.
I agree. I would say though, it would matter more to me in his 3rd start.
Okay.
Japan, he's in his home country, opening day, big adrenaline boost there. Game start number 2, home opening series, his first start in Dodger Stadium since the World Series, or I'm sorry, since the playoffs. Ceremony night, all of that stuff, sold out crowd. Again, big adrenaline boost. 3rd start, if he's still ticking up, this might be the real deal.
Yeah, I think it's a great point. I was just trying to look up, like, if his 3rd start is like, at Colorado or something like that. Here you go. April that's April 18th, 19th, 20th, somewhere in that range at the Nationals. That might be his 2nd start, depending on. Oh no, I guess he'll probably be at Philadelphia. So to your point, if he's home against the Rockies for start number 3, we'll see what stuff looks like. Moving on to game 3, Roki Sasaki. The key to me is not velocity; it's not stuff. And we talked about this on the 5:45 a.m. post-game show for anybody that was with us for that a few days ago. How much can he be in the zone? He threw 45% strikes in game number 1 for him. He had 5 walks. When I say he threw 45% strikes, that includes swings and misses, obviously. Only 34% of his pitches landed in the zone. 1 out of 3 landed in the zone. And we talked about this before. The concern was Sasaki, and people said Lance was crazy. People said I was a hater. He threw the splitter 15 times and only got 2 swings on it, and one of them was a whiff. And it's because it has to be in the zone. And so the slider was effective. That's the other thing I'm going to look for. He only threw 4 sliders. Does he start to mix in the slider a little bit more because he probably has more control over that pitch, can get it to land as a strike more often than the splitter? But can he get stuff in the zone that forces people to swing at it? Because if they swing at his stuff, they will miss. Most of the time they will miss. But if they don't swing and they know 2/3 of the time it's going to be a ball, they're going to walk more than they strike out.
Yeah. I think the command, 2 things with him. Is the velocity increase from last season still there like we saw on his first start? 2, obviously, fastball command. The splitter, I think, will end up falling in line as long as the fastball command is there. The thing I will be looking for, as I have my Paloma Cutwater in my hand on Saturday night, is first pitch strikes.
Yeah.
If I remember correctly, I think you can correct me, Jeff. I know you might have it up now, but I think he faced 14 batters in that first start. And I want to say what I remember was he started 11 of those hitters with ball 1.
Look at you. Nailed the stat. 11 for 14, 1-0 counts.
That's critical.
It's awful.
Yeah. I mean, that's a big deal. If he can get ahead of guys early, his stuff becomes that much more effective.
Well, because think about it. Like if you're ahead 1-0 and you see anything resembling a splitter, you can take it.
Yeah.
Because worst case scenario, it's 1-1. But if it's 0-1, now all of a sudden you can't really afford to fall down 0-2. And if you've got 2 strikes, you definitely can't afford for that to be a fastball or for that to land in the zone or whatever. As long as you are ahead in the count, you can take splitters all day, every day. As soon as you fall behind in the count, you have to take it more seriously. So I think that's a great point by you, Anthony. Can he get better? I mean, 50% is terrible, right? Like 50% is bad. That needs to be like 2/3 of the time he's getting ahead 0-1.
Yeah. And even if his command isn't great, as long as it's a little better we want that. But if he can get ahead of guys first pitch and the stuff is still just kind of, it's flirting around it, he's going to be more effective.
Yeah.
Because he's ahead in the count and hitters are now on the defensive.
Totally. It's a great point. So again, Snell gets opening day, Yamamoto game 2, Roki Sasaki, game 3. All 3 of those will be against the Tigers. Then they have an off day. And Monday, March 31st, they will be hosting the Braves. Tyler Glasnow, I believe, is expected based on the fact that he's starting tomorrow. I think his spot in the rotation will be up then. So that's how it should roll out. And then I guess we don't know for sure. Game number 5, who's going to be the starter? Well, no, excuse me. It's going to be Dustin May because Tony Gonsolin's on the injured list and they were fighting. So by all accounts, it will probably be Dustin May. And then Blake Snell should be good to go because April 2nd, the 6th game of the season, will be on an extra day of rest. And then they get another day of rest on April 4th. And then we're off and running with the season. So again, Snell, Yamamoto, and Sasaki, the 3 guys that we will see for the home opening series, the home stand there before the Braves come to town. Let's talk a couple other things that I found interesting. I mentioned this earlier, and I wanted to talk about this with you. The Athletic, which I love and appreciate. I think they do great work. They rank the top 100 position players, so not pitchers, only position players here. And they broke them down into 6 tiers, Anthony, for the top 100. And then the 7th tier was like the best of the rest. So basically there were 113 guys total that made it onto this list. Tier 1 was what they called the best of the best. There were only 6 guys in that tier. And I'll just read these out to you, not like name by name, don't worry. But I want you to just tell me off the cuff what stands out to you about this list. So best of the best, top 6 guys in no particular order, Ohtani and Mookie Betts both in that list. Tier 2, they called MVP contenders. Freddie Freeman is on that list. That was a list of 13. So you got 19 guys at the top. The Dodgers have 3 of them. Next, tier 3 was All-Stars. Nobody from the Dodgers in that tier. Tier 4 was Will Smith and Teoscar Hernandez. Make that tier. Tier 5 was Tommy Edman. Tier 6, nobody. And then again, there was best of the rest. Nobody from the Dodgers on that one. So 113 guys ranked. Ohtani and Mookie, Freeman, Smith, Teoscar, and Edman. The only guys that were ranked for the Dodgers. You
Yeah.
can talk a guy that didn't make that list. You can talk somebody that you wish was ranked higher, or you were surprised they were as high as they were. Take this wherever you want. What jumps out to you about that list?
I think no Muncy on
Yeah.
that list, because I think he was hurt a lot of last year. I think the last time he was healthy, he was an all-star. And if I'm mistaken about that, it was still like a 30 homer campaign, maybe something like that. Anyway,
Yeah.
and then Will Smith being as low as he is, because I think if he can figure out whatever was bugging him last year, he might be the best offensive catcher in baseball.
Yeah.
And so, if the barometer is heavy offense, I think that he should be somebody who's higher. But I get it. Like, he had a down year, and if that's what we're going off of for the most part, then fine. But I think that he has a bounce back year from where he was last year, and I think we see it again that he's an all-star caliber catcher and in the mix for the best offensive catcher in baseball.
Yeah. I'm with you. I'll run through these. Muncy was my main takeaway, and I'm going to get to that. Best of the best, Ohtani and Mookie in that top group. I guess one thing I'll just say on that, Ohtani's a no-brainer. I wonder if I take Mookie Betts for granted a little bit too much, because he's one of the 6 best players in Major League Baseball, position players, according to The Athletic here. Like, that's not nothing. And I mean, I know he's really good. He's an MVP candidate. Like, I don't think he stinks, and I'm surprised he's ranked this high. But it was just helpful for me, Anthony, to be reminded that when you ask the smartest people, not the smartest, a bunch of smart people that follow Major League Baseball, they have Mookie as one of the top 6 people. And I don't know. That just surprises me every time I see it. Not because he doesn't deserve it, but just for some reason in my mind, I think I have him in that next tier, MVP contenders, but not best of the best.
Yeah, I think we probably do take him for granted a little bit. It's for him, it's consistency.
Yeah.
And it's not necessarily the stuff that pops off the page, right? Like, Shohei went 50-50.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, and for Mookie, there's a consistency about him every year. And then, we look back, and before he broke his hand, we were talking about him like, man, Mookie and Shohei might not win the MVP because they're just going to cancel each other out with the voters. He was that good before he got hurt.
Yeah.
Like, he was in the conversation. He was probably number 2 behind Shohei when he got hurt. And some might put him ahead of, like, who are your MVP favorites on this day that Mookie Betts got hurt? And Mookie Betts was at no lower than 3rd probably at that time.
Yeah. No, I think it's a great point. He only plays 116 games last year. His last 3 seasons, 6.1 wins above replacement, 7.7 wins above replacement. And then to your point, he put up 4.4 last year in basically, 3/4 of a season. So if you give him an extra quarter there, that's another 6-win season. 3 straight 6-win seasons is pretty ridiculous for Mookie Betts. So he's there. I think Freddie Freeman in the MVP contenders makes sense to me. Kind of the 7 to 20 range fits. When I looked at the list, and I don't have all the names in front of me, I'll say that where Will Smith fit seemed about right. Like, Teoscar Hernandez, it's funny to me to see him on par with Will Smith, because Will Smith has done it for a lot longer than Teoscar Hernandez has, and yet Teoscar Hernandez was better than Will Smith last year. So those two things sort of cancel each other out, sure. I'm guessing. Tommy Edman in tier 5. But to your point, the one that jumped out to me most was I just kept looking and saying, it can't be right. No Max Muncy, the top 100 position players. Now, here's what I did some digging. He has 3 4+ wins above replacement seasons, Anthony, in his career. Muncy does. Do you know when his last one was?
23.
2021. Was the last time Max Muncy was a 4-win player. That surprised me. So I went back. 2022, he was a 2-win player in 136 games. That was 121st out of position players in Major League Baseball. In 2023, he had 2.6 wins above replacements in 135 games. That was 91st among position players. Last year, he had 2.4 wins above replacement. That was 108th. Although last season he did that in just 73 games. So if he plays a full season, that's more like a 4.5 win season. Yeah. And all of a sudden it's crazy. So to me, that's the piece. Like, we know Muncy has it in him. He was bad in 22 and 23, which is why he's not on this list. He was hurt in 2024. But when he played last year, it was also a reminder to me, Anthony, of how good he was. He was a 135 weighted runs created plus guy last year in 73 games. He put up 2.5 WAR. Again, that's a 5-win pace for Max Muncy. So I go back and forth because on one hand, look, he hasn't been a 4-win player since 2021. Hard to make a case for a guy that's getting older to be on a list like this. And yet that the sample size we had last year, and if we look at a 5-year sample size, to me, I feel like he's got to be at least on the 101 to 113 list where it's like he just missed.
Yeah, I would think so too. And last year, when he was healthy, he flashed the stuff that did make him a 4-win player.
Yeah,
like those things were present. Look, I think if he stays relatively healthy, he can get there again. I think last year too, what we noticed, and we talked about this a little bit during times when he was hurt, was the visible hole that's left in the lineup when he's not in it.
Yep. The offense slumped when he went out. Like he was the guy. It wasn't Mookie Betts leaving. Now, obviously, these things are related. But for whatever reason, Max Muncy's omission from the middle, Anthony, it's a great point by you, is what prompted sort of a lull in the middle of the season for the Dodgers offense.
Yeah. He's one of those he's like a connector.
Yeah.
And when you take a guy like him, Teo was like this too last year a little bit, but I thought it was more Muncy because of the kinds of at-bats that he takes. And when he's not there, it really thins that lineup a lot faster than like if a guy like Will Smith has a night off or if Teoscar's out. You miss their production, but when Muncy's gone, it just that break in the lineup that we talk about the Dodgers really don't have a lot of comes a lot quicker when he's out.
Absolutely. Absolutely agree with you. We got another super chat here from JY Kim. Roki debuted under unbelievable pressure. He wasn't known for having command issues in Japan. Even Skeens was a bit shaky in his debut game. It's a great point, and I don't think either of us disagree with you. And that's why I say it's a key. It's not that I'm skeptical that the command is going to improve. It's just what I'm looking for. It is a different baseball that Major League Baseball uses compared to Japan, so it's possible that messes with some stuff. To your point, unbelievable pressure in Tokyo. Even if he's feeling quote-unquote unbelievable pressure in the United States, it will not compare to what he felt pitching in Tokyo in that series, in that dome, and in that game.
Sure.
Even if it's game 3 at Dodger Stadium and it's loud, it's not going to be the Tokyo Dome for him personally. And so I'm optimistic. I think it's a great point. He didn't have these issues in Japan, so hopefully it's something that was, hey, he was a little amped up. It was his major league debut. It was in his home country. We know things didn't necessarily end well with Roki Sasaki and some folks in Japan. We'll just leave it at that. He had some folks that were not the biggest fans of how he handled things and some of the theories around why he ended up leaving the NPB. But hopefully, Anthony, this is the case, is that it was nerves and that things improve once he comes stateside.
I totally think that that's a possibility. And I think it's probably more likely than not that was the case. He got there and it was sort of this rock star sort of, boy band in Japan between him and Yamamoto and Ohtani showing up. And so, the pressure was huge there. It was immense. Also, they've had a week and a half to go over things and to throw sessions and do all this stuff and try to get his mechanics more consistent. Cause I think he said those felt a little out of whack, and get all of that stuff right and make him more comfortable. And it would not surprise me one bit if he comes out in this second start and he's got a ton of command. And we see the Sasaki that we saw in Arizona.
Yeah, absolutely. We can hope. Let's shift gears. A story in Major League Baseball that has Dodgers ties. That is not a fun story, but it is a story. Julio Urias was announced this past week that MLB announced that they are suspending him through the 2025 All-Star break. He will be reinstated from the restricted list on July 17th because he was deemed to have violated the MLB's joint domestic violence policy. This all stems from an arrest and a felony charge that was made in September of 2023. Those charges were not ultimately filed, despite video evidence that the LA Times eventually made public. 8 months later, he was officially charged with 5 misdemeanors. He pleaded no contest to 1, but faced no jail time for that. This is the second time he's been suspended under the policy. He was arrested in 2019 and suspended 20 games for that time. He is the first player ever to be suspended twice, Anthony. He is just 28 years old. The Dodgers are not going to sign him. We're not going to have that conversation because I'll just shut that one down. He's 28 years old. In 2021, he was a 5-win player who led Major League Baseball in wins. In 2022, he led Major League Baseball in ERA. In 2023, he was injured and was pretty bad, 4.5 ERA. Did not pitch at all in 2024. He's not available for the first half of the season. Do you think Julio Urias is ever pitching in a Major League stadium ever again?
No, I don't think so. This cost him probably $200 million, I would imagine.
Right. And he never hit free agency, so he had never really cashed in other than some arbitration money.
For sure.
Which, you don't feel bad for the guy. You don't feel bad for the guy one bit.
No, not at all. Not at all. And two things with this. I don't think anyone touches him.
Yeah.
I think front offices have at least grown a backbone in that way. When it comes to some of these guys, we saw, the Astros kind of, ignored it a little bit with some of their signing. We've seen teams do this in the past, but I think that wave has passed. And I think we've started to see teams like, if this is on your permanent record, so to speak, we're not touching you. And it's a big reason why Trevor Bauer isn't playing Major League Baseball right now, for all of the stuff that went on in that situation. I think teams just don't want any part of it.
Yeah.
And Urias has put himself in that situation with a whole lot more evidence against him than say Trevor Bauer had. Second thing on this, he really had a chance to be a legitimate superstar, if not in Major League Baseball, in Los Angeles, in Southern California, in Mexico. He could have been the first Mexican pitcher to reach that sort of stature. And it's I don't think it's hyperbole to say he cost himself maybe $200 million.
Yeah.
Given his age and when he was hitting free agency. And I think people understood the injury and why he was bad in that last year that he did pitch. So I think someone was going to take that chance. And had it been with the Dodgers, I mean, he could have been Fernando Part 2 in terms of the following that he could have garnered in Southern California, in Los Angeles, the sort of face of the franchise that he could have been for that community, and gone.
Yeah.
With just inexcusable behavior and indefensible actions on his part. And I'm good if he never pitches in Major League Baseball again, in all honesty, seriously.
I hope you're right. I'm skeptical in part because, unfortunately, there's some pretty bad dudes who play Major League Baseball who have some pretty damning evidence against them, right? Google Aroldis Chapman, and that guy's been pitching for a long, long time, and it's awful. Awful, 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 the stuff that is alleged to have happened involving him. I think there's a couple things working against Julio. The first is he's been out of the league for a long time. The last time we saw him, he wasn't very good in 2023, and he will have been out of Major League Baseball for almost 2 full seasons by the time he is eligible to return. Didn't pitch anywhere last year. So I think that's working against him. I think he's a little bit different than Trevor Bauer for a couple of reasons. One, I don't think he's going to come with all the publicity that Trevor Bauer would come with. I think being 28 is a lot different than now being 34. We actually saw Trevor Bauer pitch in other places and not be very good. So there's all of those factors built in. I agree with you that if I had to guess pitch or not pitch ever again in Major League Baseball, I would guess no. But with a 28-year-old who can help potentially, because again, other than when he's been hurt, he has been very good. And who knows what a year and a half, 2 years off is going to do to a guy. Unfortunately, Anthony, I'm skeptical that all of Major League Baseball will make the right decision.
Yeah, not fair. That's fair. Yeah, that's 100% fair. We see it happen in every sport where if a guy's talented enough and someone thinks that they can get a little edge by signing that person, they'll do it. Yeah. They will do it. And we have seen that. Baseball has slowed down a bit with some of that stuff because there was a time like a handful of years ago where they didn't care.
Yeah.
And that did not matter. They would
sign Ozuna. That was the guy that
that's was the first guy that comes to mind.
The Astros couldn't wait to sign that guy.
Yeah, brutal signing. But yeah, and so would not surprise me but I would not bet that it happens. And I think the context you provide is really good, because had he been good last year and then this happens,
Yeah.
it might be a little less likely that he's banished forever, right? But I
Yeah.
think the fact that people haven't seen him pitch in a long time, and it's almost like out of sight, out of mind.
Yeah.
And um, if that's the case, then it's a little easier to pass on a guy like that.
Well, and I just wonder too for Julio, like, is this a national story? Like, if he gets signed by Cincinnati, like, there's going to be nasty headlines, terrible headlines if they were to make that move, of course. But I just wonder, like, does the average Cincinnati Reds fan, does the average Milwaukee Brewers fan, does the average, fill in the blank team here fan actually like know about what Urias did? Have they seen the video? Of course, they'll Google it. There will be the beat reporters will crush the team for
Yeah.
signing him, all of that. But that's another piece that, like, everybody knows the Bauer deal. Like it, love it, have an opinion, positive, negative, whatever. Everybody knows what you're getting with Trevor Bauer. I think there's probably a team out there that might be talking themselves into, hey, we'll get bad press for 3 or 4 days. Most of our people won't know the full story. And then maybe this whole thing blows over.
Yeah, it's possible. And you make a good point about how many, what do the legs look like on a story like this, right?
Yeah.
He's not a star.
Yeah.
For as good as he's been, he was never really a star in Major League Baseball.
Totally.
And so I think there might be a team out there like, a Reds, a Brewers, or, I don't think it's like the Mets. I don't think it's the Dodgers, the Giants. I don't think it's like a bigger market team like that. But, a team that might be able to fly under the radar with it, not a ton of media attention.
Yeah.
Sure. And then you just hope that cycle is quick and everyone moves on, because the name Julio is not the same as the name Trevor, and with all that he went through, right? And so, there's a big difference there. And so, yeah, somebody may take that gamble and say, hey, not that big a deal, not that big a name. People will forget. People might not remember. I just hope that no, because he had a second chance already and he blew it.
Yep, I'm with you. Again, to make abundantly clear, neither of us wants to see this guy in Major League Baseball. I'm all for forgiveness and I'm all for second chances. When you become the first guy to ever be suspended twice under this policy, you've lost. And we've seen the video, right? Like, there's no speculation about what happened. Right. Everybody's seen the video, and this guy deserves to be nowhere. He does not deserve the privilege of being a professional athlete, of being a professional baseball player, of making millions of dollars. He just doesn't deserve that. I hope he figures his life out. I hope he never does this again. I'm not wishing the worst things in the world for him for the rest of his life, but I think being a baseball player and a professional one making millions of dollars is a privilege. And I think he forfeited that, at the very least. So again, the news here is that he will be suspended. Major League Baseball announced through the All-Star break. He will be reinstated from the restricted list on July 17th. At that point, he could be signed by a major league team if he so chooses. He could go pitch, by the way, in the meantime, in a place like Mexico, internationally. Those leagues he's allowed to go pitch in if he wanted. Again, he didn't pitch anywhere last year, which is its own thing. He's working through some legal stuff, I'm sure. But I'll be curious to see what happens. And hopefully it's the last time we ever talk about Julio Urias on this show is my hope. Before we get to some questions, Anthony, by the way, shout out to the 1,000 people watching us live on Facebook, on YouTube, on Twitter. If you haven't already, please go ahead, hit the like button on YouTube. If you're watching this on Twitter, migrate over to YouTube. That's a better place for us. We get more interaction with you on YouTube, but please hit the like button, hit the thumbs up button. That helps us. That helps makes this show move and go and grow. And we'd greatly appreciate that. I have one more segment I want to run by you, Anthony, before we get to questions. And it's one of my favorites. It's buying or selling. And this is overreacting, underreacting to very small sample sizes here. But we've seen 2 games that counted against real pitching, and these count, right? Guys aren't just trying things in games 1 and 2 of the MLB regular season like they may have. And so we've got some positive things. We've got some negative things. We've got some interesting things. And so I'm not telling you to say, yes, Will Smith is going to have a 1,500 OPS for the entire season. That's not what it means to buy Will Smith. But this is a guy who, in 2 games, looked really, really good. And I think a lot of people, myself included, who are big Will Smith fans, were skeptical. He's not fully healthy. He struggled at the end of last year. I didn't think he was going to be bad, but I wasn't expecting him to be like, a surefire all-star necessarily right out of the gates. Are you buying or selling that we might have a more positive Will Smith experience this year than we may have been expecting?
I'm buying.
Okay.
I'm buying. He's had a bad year. It's not like this, last year was his third in a row of he's been bad. I think there were some reasons for it. Partly the injury that we learned about this year. I hope that he's worked out some of those kinks. And I think his approach at the plate looked different, at least in those 2 games. And for me, that's big.
Yeah.
That's a big deal. More so than what the swing might look like or whatever. I thought that his approach at the plate was noticeably different than it was for the majority of last season. And I think if that holds up, he becomes a much more disciplined and much more dangerous hitter.
Yeah.
So I the reason why I buy is because that is something he can control at bat to at bat. Sometimes when your mechanics are out of whack or whatever, like you can't get that back. Like it's hard. You have to do extra work. Like you got to watch a ton of film, all of that stuff. Approach, though, I think is something you can control day to day, at bat to at bat. And so to see him look that way was promising, and that's why I say that I'm buying on him.
Yeah, and look, it's a small sample size, but when Will Smith is right, that's what it looks like. And I
Yep.
think that's why I'm optimistic, because he was slapping line drives to the gaps and he was just making solid contact, fouling pitches off, working long at bats. He just looked like what Will Smith looks like when he's good. Now, it's early on in the season. There's no wear down that's happened.
Feeling
But
good.
knowing, I was skeptical because he kept saying during spring training that he was still banged up. He wasn't 100%, which is not what I want to hear my catcher say before the season even starts, because we know the toll a full season takes on him. But I'm encouraged there. He already has 0.3 wins above replacement, Anthony. Will Smith.
Well, he's on his way.
He's on his way. He's on his way. Leads Major League Baseball, by the way, in case people are wondering. Andy Pages, 1 for 8, a double, and 4 strikeouts in 2 games so far. The issue with him was strikeouts last year. The double is nice. I thought he played better defensively in center field than I was expecting. Again, small sample size. We're overreacting to everything here. But what are you doing with Andy Pages? 4 strikeouts and 8 at bats for a guy that was the big concern, who didn't have a great spring. How are you feeling about him?
Meh. Right now,
you're holding.
That's sort of how I feel about it. I still, me personally, I still give him the runway first before Outman.
Okay.
And I think that's probably what the Dodgers will do.
Yeah.
If we go a couple of weeks in and he's striking out 50% of the time, then the conversation needs to happen. But I think he gets that runway at first. The first 2 games, I'm just sort of, for me, not enough there to say one way or another. But I'm definitely not selling. I'll say that.
Yeah, you can hold. Again, we're overreacting, underreacting. We have 2 games under our belt. I think with guys like this, it's like spring training. I don't necessarily form opinions, but if I already hold an opinion, I watch, okay, spring training, what happens? First 2 games, what happens? If you were concerned about Pages, you're probably more concerned than you were at the beginning of spring training and prior to these 2 games in Tokyo. Because your worst nightmare is basically he struggled all spring. He didn't strike out as much as Outman, but he struck out a bunch, and then he struck out 50% of the time in the first 2 games against Cubs pitching. So I'm not selling. I think hold is the right move. I don't think anybody should be buying. Maybe you're buying his defense, but I'm with you. Clearly, he's going to be the guy that's going to get some runway. Yes, it was against 2 lefties, so maybe that was just a coincidence that he was the guy in there because he was getting lefties. But I think Pages is going to be the first guy to get some opportunities out there. The Mookie thing obviously throws a wrench into some stuff. It doesn't mean they have less of a need in center field. It just means Edman might be moving over to shortstop. Kike Hernandez might be more of an everyday guy at second base. Okay, last one here. And this was, I thought, just a really interesting storyline that never became a storyline because it changed prior to game 1. Michael Conforto was not scheduled to start game 1 of the regular season for the Dodgers because there was a lefty on the mound. Mookie Betts was going to be in and Conforto was going to be out. Instead, Mookie was out and Conforto was in. He ended up playing the second game as well. Presumably, he would have been out for that game too. I don't know, but are you buying or selling the possibility that Michael Conforto is actually a platoon guy who only plays consistently against right-handers?
I'm selling that for now.
Okay.
I want to see it happen more consistently over the first, let's say 10 games or so.
Yeah.
but I thought that job was probably going to be his to lose on an everyday basis before a
Yeah,
platoon happened.
with you.
Um, so yeah, so that was a little surprising, but doesn't necessarily mean that it's the telltale sign that that's going to be it going
Yeah,
forward. These things are usually pretty fluid, and so if he's able to produce um, decently against both hands, then I think the job is probably his, or it should be. I think um, the platoon situation there would be what Kike.
yeah, probably. That's what it seemed like. Is that
Yeah,
maybe Kike's at second, Edmonds in center field, Pages is in right field. Is
right.
kind of how you throw that out there against lefties.
Yeah. So we'll see. We don't know all that went into the decision to not start him in that first game, and maybe the plan was to start him anyway in the second game, no matter who was pitching. So we'll see. I think I hate to say hold on two of these things, but what I'll say is I'm not buying it for now.
Yeah. Look, if Mookie's not playing, then this all becomes a moot point, and Conforto is probably going to get some run against some lefties, and then we'll see what happens. Is probably what to make out. To me, I think like if you were not going to do the platoon thing, you wouldn't be doing a platoon thing on day number one, right? Like it's easy to be like, oh, normal scheduled day off happened to be against a lefty, not just a coincidence. Like day
Yeah.
one, they had Conforto out of the lineup, so I'm buying Anthony that they might be treating him as a platoon guy until proven otherwise, which is surprising to me because I know how good Kike has been against lefties and I know how good Pages has been against lefties, but I just didn't imagine a world where Conforto wasn't an everyday guy. But maybe at least if everybody is healthy, that's kind of the starting point that the Dodgers are working from. And I don't like it. I don't agree with it. I would not make him a platoon guy. I've made my stance on Conforto known, and he did all right in the first couple games. He had a double, so it's not like he struggled mightily against lefties and then saw whoever they had coming out of the bullpen. But it's surprising to me, but I think this is a real thing to keep an eye on.
Yeah, and again, we don't know the full. Yeah, it very well may have been just they didn't like the matchup, and despite his splits last year, they were like, we don't want the same hand in this matchup, and so we're going
Yeah.
to sit you. Could also have been like, you know what, the pinky toe was bothering him, and so like they were going to give him an extra. We
Yeah.
don't know
True.
what else went into that decision aside from like, oh no, it's a platoon decision. We don't know that, so I think we need to see it a couple more times before we can start asking that question.
Yeah. Totally agree. Totally agree. Something to keep an eye on there. So, all right, folks, we're at the hour mark again. Thanks to the 1,000 people that are in here live with us on a Sunday night. Sorry for the late night show. I appreciate you all being patient as I had to watch my beloved, some nights, not tonight, Oregon Ducks fall in the NCAA tournament. It's a decent run. You lose to a higher seed you expected. But thanks for being patient. Normally won't be this late on Sunday nights, but we appreciate you. If you've got any questions, throw those all caps questions in the chat. We'll get to a few of those. If you're new, by the way, Tuesday nights, Thursday, Sunday nights, we will be live right here on the Dodger Blue YouTube page. So if you're new, subscribe, ring the notification bell. It'll be me and Anthony on Tuesdays and Sundays, and then it'll be me and Matt/Blake, I believe, on Thursday nights moving forward. So go ahead, set the reminder, add it to your calendar. Do not miss Tuesday nights, Thursday nights, Sunday nights. Oh gosh, we're going straight here. David, just first question.
I knew you were
Jeff doesn't
saying
hate
that one.
cheese, which I don't think he does. Got your back, brother. You know what, David? I appreciate you. Please tell me you don't hate extra sharp aged provolone. Best cheese ever. I'm not sure I've tried extra sharp aged provolone. I feel like cheddar is the only type of cheese I've ever had, Anthony, that has like an extra sharp. It's not the only type of cheese I've ever had, but it's the only type of cheese where I've had like a sharp cheddar versus a not sharp cheddar.
Got it.
I mean, I guess that makes me just a total simp over here, but I'm sure I would like it. I love cheese. I had a quesadilla as my snack right before hopping on here. I had a bagel with cream cheese twice today because I love that. What did I have for lunch? Tacos. Actually, didn't put any cheese on those tacos, Anthony. No cheese anywhere near my. I won't try and pronounce the type of taco I had. One of them was a shredded beef crispy taco, but it was great. It was great. So I don't know. Do you have you had extra sharp aged provolone?
I can't say if I have. I can't say that I knew that's what it was.
Do you have a
But
favorite cheese?
What's that?
Do you have a favorite cheese?
Provolone is up there. I was just going to say that provolone is one of my favorite cheeses. I'm not a huge. I like Swiss cheese. That's kind of my sandwich cheese that I go
Okay.
to.
An interesting taste.
I'm a big cheese fan.
Yeah,
I'll say that. I like cheese.
you and me both, Anthony. You and me both. Mozzarella cheese, burrata cheese. Those are I like a lot of that stuff. Ricotta cheese. I like it all. I like it all. It's great. Yeah. How many innings does Dustin May pitch this season, Anthony? Let me see. Like, do you think if I put the over under at this is going to tell me how many innings he's pitched. Let's see how many innings he's pitched in his career. He's never pitched more than 56. That's too low of a number. 74.2 innings, over or under.
Okay. I will say over.
Okay. Optimism. I like it. Look,
yeah,
I'll go with you. At some point, he's got to get good luck on the health front, right? At some point, it's got to be good. So we're both taking the other 75 plus. Eden says, what would be considered a bounce back for Will Smith stats wise? Last year, 248, 327, 433 was the slash. The on base percentage really was the number, Anthony, that dipped like 250. He had been kind of a 260 guy the 3 years prior, but the on base percentage was 32 points lower than the year before. The slug, 30-ish points, but it was down to 438. So I think if he can be 260, 350, 450, that's kind of like if I can get an OPS that starts with an 8 from Will Smith, to me, that's a bounce back.
Yeah, that sounds right. And I was going to say, for me, it's the OBP. And that's why I was buying him, because of that, the approach stuff. I think that kind of approach is the sort of approach that helps you raise your OBP and helps you keep it consistent, even when you might be going through a slump here for a couple of weeks or whatever the case may be. You still find ways to get on, or at least contribute, whether, maybe you got a 10 pitch at bat and you pop out or whatever, but now that guy's thrown 20 pitches and the next guy up is going to reap the rewards for that, something like that kind of stuff. I would like to see that weighted runs created number, be in the teens, the one teens.
Yeah, it was 111 last year, 118 the year before, 127, 130. So,
yeah, I would say, given what we know about his health situation, you give me something like 118, 120, something around there. Like, that's promising for me. I like it.
Okay. Joseph,
I'd like to see him flash a little more power too. Like, if that returns also, I think that makes up a big part of that gap.
Yeah, I mean, he had 20 home runs, which was actually more than he had in 2023. He's been 24, 25 kind of a guy. Yeah. But to your point, the overall slug was down. So there we go. Joseph says, what are your guys' season's record prediction? Then Zenji, perfect timing. 112 wins is doable this year. New team record, even 116. I have taken the over on 111.5 that they beat that mark from a few years ago. Matt is under. I can't remember. You're under, right? You're in like the 106 to 110 range.
Yeah, I'm right? Under. I said 105. I think they cruise in to the division in September, and I think that they are really going to prioritize health and rest and those kinds of things that second half of the month of September. And so they may ease off the gas a bit and they fall a little short there. So I have 105. But I just think that's because they choose not to go harder after it.
Fair. Let's see. Norm wants to know, do you expect Snell to keep up with Scuba on opening day, given he has historically been very slow out of the gate?
Yeah, I do. I think that at times there have been reasons for those slow starts, particularly last season.
Yep.
I think also feels like he's got a different kind of motivation this year. I think part of that is him signing so quickly. I think we were doing was it a Tuesday night show in November when that happened, that came down, and we were reacting to it in real time. the first name off the board, so to speak, was Blake Snell. I think all of that tells me he's going to come out and the 6-shooter's ready. He's ready to go.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think you took all the words out of my mouth. Last year was an anomaly. He He didn't sign until very, very late. He wasn't prepared. He's been early this year. He talked about that to reporters when we were there. So I'm optimistic that he's going to be ready to go from day one. GI wants to know, are we going to hear about Blake, about how McDonald's, Taco Bell, and KFC in Japan are different from the U.S.? Stay tuned. Hopefully Thursday we get Blake on to talk about that. So stay tuned. Skimmer wants to know, other than Showtime, who will be the Dodgers MVP this season? I had Mookie second. You had Snell in your top
Snell.
three. You had Snell. There you go. So Anthony thinks he's going to be ready from day one. Padmeet, last year there was fun stats like every time Miguel Rojas got a hit, the Dodgers won. Austin Barnes had a hitting streak. Do you have a prediction, Anthony, on a weird stat for the Dodgers? Like this guy does something and the Dodgers never lose.
That's a really good question. I like it.
I'll throw one out there.
Okay.
Like the first thing that popped to my mind is like, is there a pitcher? We talked about Julio Urias, who led the league in wins at one point. Is there a pitcher on the Dodgers that just gets some, not luck, the Dodgers are going to win a bunch of games, but is there a Dodgers pitcher who wins like 22 games this year? Now they'd have to start a bunch of games, but I've been high on Yamamoto, so I'll just keep riding that train. Does Yoshinobu Yamamoto get 20 wins? So I'll throw that out as a weird stat. Every time Yamamoto pitches, the Dodgers win like 80% of those games. How about that?
Yeah. To that man, 20 is a high number.
Oh, yeah. For a guy who's probably going to make like 26 starts.
Yeah, right. On
a good year. The Dodgers lose 80% of games that Austin Barnes starts. Do you want to go down that route?
No. I will say they win 80% of the games that Michael Conforto gets on base.
Oh, okay. That's going to be a lot. It's a lot of games. Conforto, I think. I have big high hopes for him.
Well, they might hit that 111, 112 wins then.
It's true. David says, which trade was better? Anthony Davis for Luka or Anthony Verdugo for Mookie Betts?
Ooh, man. I gotta go Mookie.
We won 2 World Series.
They got 2 rings out of it, man. They got 2 rings out of it. Now, I will say this. I'll say this. Mookie maybe ends up with like 3 or 4 as a Dodger, right? So like that's or unmatched a little bit, right? Luka gets 2 as a Laker. They're building the guy a statue, and that trade goes down as one of the all-time greats, along with the Mookie trade in LA sports history.
Yeah, I'm with you. Ella Shiva wants to know, do we predict that David Bodie will get major league playing time with the Dodgers in 2025?
I'm gonna say no. I think
you think he's going Andre Lipsius status. He's just going to be the guy that's in AAA all year that Dodger fans are clamoring for.
Well, I think he may go somewhere else.
Okay.
To get
we don't know. Again, we don't know if he has an opt-out. A lot of these guys do. Usually you'll find out like a week or 10 days into the season is when that clause hits. I don't think Bodie is necessarily automatically good enough to have that clause.
Yeah, I don't think so either. But I think it may be a situation where he's playing okay enough, but the Dodgers maybe don't have a real need for him during that first month, and maybe they do him a solid and say, hey, we could look to move you, get you in a better situation for yourself, something like that. I could see that happening. I'll say this. For as nice of a story that has been during spring training, I would say we hope that we don't see him, because if we don't, then I think a lot of things are going really well at the big league level.
Yeah. Agreed. Science Verdugo's so forgettable that Jeff called him Anthony. Sorry if I called him Anthony. Shout out to Anthony Verdugo. In the major leagues. Got a deal. Good for him. Made $1 million. Shout out to the Braves for giving him $1 million. I think Bodie gets in, by the way. I mean, heck, if Mookie goes to the injured list, Bodie might be on the major league roster to open the season. Who knows?
And the way the Dodgers work that IL, he might be here within the first 10 days.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's see. I think I had one other question. Oh, did I just miss it? Sorry, it's great content here. Oh, Eden asked why I hate Austin Barnes. I don't actually hate Austin Barnes. It's just a running joke where Matt thinks he acts like Austin Barnes is like a good major league player, and I don't necessarily think he is. Do you want to guess from 2018, Anthony, to 2024, what Austin Barnes' weighted runs created plus is? So 100 is league average. I just said Will Smith, 10% above league average. Do you want to get what Austin Barnes is? I'll give you a hint. It's below 100. Just the hint I'll give you.
83?
77.
Whew.
It's not great.
It's not good. Great. It's not great.
He has one season
not great,
over
Bob.
100 in the last 7. And he has 2 seasons like 92, 86, 77, 78, 67, 41. Those were the numbers. So I don't hate Austin Barnes. Like, that's the thing, is like, I hope the best for him as a person. I'm glad he made lots of money, and he's gonna get a pension probably, like when he gets his service time, and good for him. As a Dodgers fan, like, I wish we had a better backup catcher than Austin Barnes, but I don't like personally hate Austin Barnes. I just don't think he's very good. I don't know.
I mean, that's like every team, right? Like, every team wishes they had a better.
Every team doesn't have Hunter Fiducia sitting right there, just ready to ball out, though. So there you go.
Jeff's hate list: Barnesy, Cheese, Banda.
Yeah. Semi-true. The most true of those 3, I'll give you this, is Austin Barnes. If one of those 3 had to be true, I would like Austin Barnes the least of those 3, to be clear.
All right.
So there you go. Shout out to the moderator, who won't identify themselves, of course, but I have my suspicions tonight. Yeah. Okay. On that note, I think that'll close out. You got a college basketball pick for us, Anthony? Again, my team, I just watched them fail in miserable fashion. They didn't deserve to win, but they got close. They got my hopes up at the end. Had the ball down by 2. The worst player on the team got the shot. Our best player just kept passing the ball because he's a good point guard, and then he was supposed to get it back, and guys just wanted to be the hero. So anyways, that's enough from me. You got a March Madness pick for us, Anthony?
I didn't. This is the first year in like 30 years or something like that I didn't do a bracket.
Yeah, me neither.
I didn't watch any college basketball hardly. I was way into the NBA since the start of the season. 2 things though that I did say in like our, my buddy group chats or whatever. I thought Arkansas would make a run. Coach Cal seems to be able to figure out in the tournament,
Yeah, St. John's legit, so they beat them.
Yeah. And then quite pleased that Dan Hurley is out of the tournament.
Because of the Lakers deal?
Yes. More so though, in that situation, less that he turned the job down, more so for the fact that him and his wife decided to do a media tour that no one asked for, bashing Los Angeles and California, and like just, talking about what a S-hole the Southland is, when no one asked for that media tour.
Okay, I like that. Tell us how you really feel, Anthony. I appreciate that. Cooper Flag's legit. If anybody watches the NBA, I don't know the guy's name. Duke has a center who's only been playing for a few years. That dude is legit. Like, he's going to be a dude. So nobody's talking about him because it's Cooper Flag, and Cooper Flag's amazing. He's going to be number 1. He deserves it, the whole deal. Oregon was going to shut him down, but good news for Cooper Flag is he didn't have to play the Ducks next. He gets to play Arizona. They're going to beat him by 10. Take Duke on the points. Lay the points. Duke's going to murder him. That's my prediction. That's all I got. My picks were terrible. I lost money. I'm in Nevada right now. Lost money. So there we go. I got to correct a couple things. David, doesn't Jeff hate Tommy Burgers? Hell no. I probably like Tommy's Burgers better, more than anybody on the show. So I don't think anybody hates him. It feels like something Blake might be lukewarm about, but I don't want to put those words in his mouth. So I don't know. 300 says we should have had Jeff interview Barnes in spring training. Yeah, we could have. That could have been
a 60-minute style sit down, and you just pepper him with reasons you hate him.
I'm going to be honest. We posted an interview today with Josue DePaula, yesterday with Emmett Sheehan. Those are guys I was more interested in talking to, Anthony, than Austin Barnes. Just going to be honest. That's what I got. Dodger Blue wants to know, has Anthony discussed his suite experience? You were part of the Lakers Nation crew, right? They got to go to a suite in the crib?
It was great. We went to the Sunday afternoon game against the Suns a couple of Sundays ago, a week ago.
Fine basketball team they got down there in Phoenix.
Oh, yeah, superb. So first time seeing Luka in person. Crypto.com did a partnership with Laker Nation, and we got a suite, and some of the Laker Nation guys were in there. I was in there with Matt, and then I think it was 3 winners, and then they all got a +1. So great time in there. Amazing experience. The suite was great. Lakers won. Luka put on a show, hit that step back over KD and let him know about it. It was great. It was fantastic. The vibe, I will say this, the vibe in that arena right now when Luka's on the court is very reminiscent of 8/24 when he had it cooking.
Okay.
I'm not a big Bill Simmons fan, but he said that's what it felt like to him. He went to a Luka game recently, and he kind of said the same thing. And I listened to. I'm not a big Bill Simmons guy.
I like Bill Simmons, so we're not an anti Bill Simmons all the way podcast.
No.
I'm a Lakers fan.
And I'm not anti. I'm just not a huge fan. But I agreed with that take 100%. So big shout out to Laker Nation and to Crypto for letting us have that experience. It was fantastic. It was awesome.
There you go, folks. That'll do it for us tonight. Again, Anthony and I will be back a couple nights, Tuesday night, and we got some fun interviews tentatively lined up this week. So keep an eye out on Dodger Blue 1958 right here on YouTube. We got a couple that are in the works, and I always hesitate to announce them because we've had people, just stop responding to emails and messages after telling us they were going to come on. So stay tuned. I'll leave it at that. That is Anthony Witrado. I am Jeff Spiegel, folks. Check out DodgerBlue.com. Again, the Mookie Betts post-game stuff is on the YouTube page, so go check that out as soon as we are done here. Enjoy the rest of your night, everybody. As always, go Dodgers. And still champs!